Thank you for interacting with The Last Video Store, the show where I, Alexis Toliopoulos, talk to interesting people about their favorite movies. And today's episode, we're talking to absolute icons of Australian cinema, Hugo Weaving and Daniel Henshall. They are both the stars of the latest film called How to Make Gravy, about an adaptation of the Paul Kelly song. Beautiful Christmas film. And I'm joined by a beautiful Christmas man. Of course, Santa himself. Batuta answer to Santa. It is Clancy Overall, the editor of the Batuta Advocate. And dare I say, he makes a cameo appearance in How to Make Gravy himself.
Yes. Yeah. I do.
You do?
I'm, what's the word for that? It's not extra anymore. It's supporting.
It's a featured player, I'd say, because you have a line or two.
Yeah.
And you're quite prominently featured. You play a prisoner and you're taller than all the rest, so you see you popping up throughout the film.
Well, you can't fault them on casting.
You cannot.
If we're in a medium to high security prison,
you got to get a big fella
I don't
like
have
yourself
the
in
ink,
there.
but I felt one with the mess hall when we were filming that. Yeah.
Can you tell me any stories, any gossip from on set?
One thing I would say is that, this is a film where a lot of it is set in prison, as is the song. And the prison, I think they've done very well. I think the extras, having met them and, had lunch with them and, hit the catering truck with them. And
of course, you're almost always eating lunch with these guys, even in the film itself.
Yeah, I know. And we eat a lot in the film on camera.
Yeah.
A lot of them had been to jail. And so I think that the atmosphere on set was authentic.
Yeah.
And that works because what they're trying to do is pull levers to change that atmosphere because it's Christmas and it needs to be a bit warmer than the day-to-day hostilities of a prison yard. So I think you'll notice that in watching this film. It's quite emotional, and a lot of the people in that room were emotional, and some of them were very hardened old men.
I think it's a really beautiful film. We'll talk about it with Hugo and Dan as well, but I think what it really captures instantly for me, this film, is like this beautiful, quite poignant feeling of melancholy that I do associate with the holidays. Like I think a great Christmas film needs to have that little melancholy touch, and this kind of film lives in it, but there's all that sweetness, perhaps from the dollop of tomato sauce in this film, in the titular gravy.
It is. And I also think with Christmas or with, anything that's like, they say psychologists and cops, the phone starts ringing 2 weeks after Christmas because that's when everyone's kind of made peace with, the dust has settled.
Yeah.
And people start, getting cranky or they start divorces and everything like that. But when you're there, it's all about just moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's a funny thing too, because there'll be an argument here. Okay, change the subject, do this. And that's what jail is too.
Yeah.
So the parallels between an intense family Christmas and a jail yard, I think the juxtaposition of those two things are very interesting throughout the same film.
Yeah, it works really nicely the way they've found this balance. Like I think it's a very nicely balanced film.
Yeah.
Huge recommendation for me. I think if you are an Aussie Christmas enjoyer, I think definitely this will play really nicely with your family, especially if maybe not even slightly older kids. I think a 12-year-old will get a lot out of seeing this movie with their parents and in that little group. Like perfect kind of Christmas outing altogether.
What would you say about, how would you categorize it in terms of the music? The music in this whole thing is amazing.
Yeah.
Megan Washington, Australian singer-songwriter, working with, the original subject matter, which was Paul Kelly's famous Australian song, How to Make Gravy. And then obviously adding,
her own personality.
Thing, but it's not a musical. So there's got to be a word for that where it's not a musical, but it is one, if you know what I mean. It's a music heavy Australian film.
The way I actually hosted an early screening of this for the actors, which is Australian industry thing. And I asked Megan Washington about that, and the way they brought it up with her was something I noticed is so many of the smaller roles in this film are not just editors of the Batuta Advocate filling them out, but musicians like Briggs is in this, even Aidan Clark is there, Patience and freaking Brendan McLean. There's so many Australian music acts.
A lot of people in there, so just more thinking from Queensland, there's Luke Peacock.
Yep.
Luke Peacock and his father in that in that choir.
Yeah. There's so much in there. And the way she talked about that was like they wanted to cast musicians because they wanted it to feel like you were in a song.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's like such a nice way to view it. And I think it's very successful in giving you that feeling. So it's not really musical, but it feels like you're inside a song.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Beautifully. That's not me. That was Megan that said that. I go, well, I'm going to take it as well.
That's pretty well put.
Very well put.
Good answer.
Good answer. Great movie. I'm so excited about this episode talking to Hugo Weaving, one of my all-time favorite actors. The Matrix, Proof, one of the great Australian like contemporary films, and then Daniel Henshall, who I think is one of the great modern actors of Australian cinema. I think Acute Misfortune, where he plays Adam Cullen, the artist, is one of the great films about the Australian male psyche ever made that talks about that, the cultural obsession that we have with like male darkness and stuff. And we'll get into those talks with those two guys coming up and relating to Adam.
Do you talk about the darkness of some of the roles that he's taken as well?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do kind of pry into that area, especially kind of relating to Gravy being almost a healing film to that same kind of Australian male psyche.
It's a gear change for sure.
Yeah, and it's literally about that, but in a warm way and a way that's talking about how do we move beyond those things. So I think for both of these guys, it's an interesting film to land in their filmography. Yeah. We do talk all about it, so you will love what we get into in this chat.
Isn't Hugo spectacular in this film?
Oh my God, man. Incredible performance, very... like just the way that he kind of has this nurturing quality and he almost feels like he's the embodiment of the nourishment of food and the way that food can bring people together. Yeah. I think it's quite a special film, great debut film, directorial debut as well by Nick Waterman. Really worth watching. It comes out on Binge on December 1st. It's a Sunday. Get the family together to watch it then. Or I'd say like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Gravy Day, December 21st.
Yeah.
Watch it on all of those.
Boxing Day. Boxing Day.
Oh, absolutely Boxing Day movie.
Once the stress of your own Christmas is over, you can watch this.
Dude, that's perfect, Nancy. What we do on this show is we talk to people about their favorite movies in the style of an old school video store rental combo, a new release, 2 weekly classics, and we're going to do that with Hugo and Dan in a sec. But if you want your own customized star pick recommendation from me based on your taste, send us in a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, comment at Last Video Store Batuta on Instagram, anything like that, and I'll give you a recommendation. And Clancy, you've got one sent in to us now from here. If you could read out that
I'm reading
to me.
this one out. This comes from 45HZP via Apple Podcasts.
Wow, thank you, Apple, for letting 45 get in contact with me in this way. God, I hope it's not the 45.
5 stars. Says Lex for PM.
Wow.
Do you get Lex?
I love Lex.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Lex. My nearest and dearest call me Lex.
Lex for PM. The comment reads, well, the review reads, Lex is a national treasure and his knowledge of film is unrivaled. Broaden your horizons and explode your mind. Listen to this podcast. My 3 films are Wayne's World, Trainspotting, and Beetlejuice.
Oh my God, if you say it one more time, the guy's going to show up on mic and we do not have the time before this episode. I'm going to give you a great one. This is off both Wayne's World and Trainspotting. Another film from Penelope Spheris, one of my heroes, directed Trainspotting. She's like the great punk filmmaker. Something that's a little bit more in the direction of Trainspotting from her is this film called Suburbia. It stars a young Flea before the freaking Peppers were ever around.
Really? Before the Peppers?
And it's like about that kind of like gutter punk scene, trapped in LA, these kind of like falling apart punks that are squatting in this house. So it's a little bit more Trainspotting than Wayne's World, but from the same creator as Wayne's World, the film. It's called Suburbia. Check it out. Can be a little bit hard to find, so search the web and you'll find it, babe.
Well, I think 45HZP is going to be happy with that triangulation you just provided.
One of the great triangulators.
Perhaps a enthusiast of the reefer. I'm just going to say those films, Wayne's World, Trainspotting, Beetlejuice.
I would say a lot of bong water is spilled in Suburbia, so it might be a good pick for you.
Terrific.
Well, thank you so much, Clancy, for joining me for this intro. We've got to get you back on the pod sometime.
Yeah, I've got to come back.
You got to return those flicks.
No. Bleeder. Bleeder was the film you gave me.
Yeah.
It was a great pick. Great triangulation. But just before you go, I was just saying the actors and directors have started talking about the Last Video Store.
Ooh.
One thing I did learn at at the premiere of How to Make Gravy, everyone was talking about, what was your pick? What was your pick? People who haven't been invited on were going, what would I pick?
Oh my gosh, the word is getting out.
The word's getting out, so.
Well, Damon Harriman, I'm assuming you're talking about, we'll have to get you on, brother.
Damon,
I'm sure you listen to this
among many
one.
others, probably should get the directors on here too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nick Waterman and Megan Washington,
But today we've got Hugo Weaving, we've got Daniel Henshall.
got some big hitters here.
Some big hitters, great chat. And it was I'll say this as well, thank you to Binge, because they carved out a full 45-minute podcast in a freaking junket, unheard of.
Yeah.
So the reputation of the video store lives on no matter what goes on. So thank you very much, Binge. Check out How to Make Gravy. I think you'll really love it. So I think it's quite a special film for Australia, especially for Christmas.
Yeah.
Let's get into the chat, babe.
Get into it.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining me inside the last video store.
Of course, thanks for having me.
It's forming around you as we speak. It's the most ephemeral and ethereal version of the show so far. So this is a place where we can it's all about filmic discovery and talking about some of your favorite movies. I would like to ask both of you, have you had a favorite video store in your life?
Favorite video store?
Yeah,
for
sure.
sure.
A lot of great movies.
Oh, the first video store, which was... It was an independently run
the opposite
local
of this
joint.
show, the first video store.
Do you know, it was up the road from where I lived.
Yeah.
You could get Redskins and a video, and you know, and a can of Coke for under $5.
Oh my god.
You went up to they used to have the cover and the poster of the film on the cover before the video got to the store.
Yeah.
But it was in a specific color, so you knew it was coming. But you had to wait 6 months to a year for it to come if you missed it at the movies. Yeah. As in, you were asking us literally which...
which is your favourite one,
My favourite was definitely a place called Arrow Street Video Store in Wellington.
Oh, wow.
And when I went over there to work in New Zealand, went over there and they said, people said, because I was, like a bit of a film nut. And then they said, you got to go to this place. And I went and I could not believe it was absolutely the best, all the Criterion collection, it had everything.
Wow.
Everything there in this fabulous old place on Arrow Street in this valley, just up the hill out of Wellington Central. And I was there constantly. It was when, when videos were videos and DVDs was sort of coming in. But that was out and out the best collection.
Do you remember the place in Bondi Junction?
Yeah, that was Dr. Watt. Dr. Watt. Yeah.
Dr. Watt was fantastic too.
We kind of talk about films as like gateways or almost like portals or mirrors and stuff. Do you have any early memories of those very first films that were kind of like those gateways for you?
Yep.
Yeah, straight away.
Yeah, 100%. I've got two very distinct ones. Aladdin.
Yes.
And Young Einstein. Do you remember Young Einstein?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Those films.
I modelled my hair on that guy sometimes.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Serious's. Yeah.
One of the great mysteries.
Yeah, big time.
So mine were Lawrence of Arabia when I was 9, seeing that on the big screen, like 70mm, and then seeing If at my school in England.
Malcolm
That must have
McDowell.
been the year,
If?
If is a Lindsay Anderson film, black and white and colour. It's like absolutely incredible film about a school and the class system in England. It's a brilliant piece of work. But I saw that as a 14-year-old, and our headmaster used to screen films in the dining hall every Saturday night, and he showed us. And I went to that sort of school.
Yeah.
And I was at that sort of school, and he showed us that film. The last images, they shoot the headmaster with a machine gun. And he showed it to us. I thought he was really switched on to film. So he introduced me to
That's super cool.
an adult view of life that I hadn't had before.
Wow. Oh my God, that's pretty hip for a principal to show you the
very,
movie about.
very. It's a great film, by the way.
Great film. And I didn't even know it had sequels until recently. They never kind of came up in my radar until I was reading about If, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. It has 2 sequels.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was, or maybe not direct sequels, but I think Malcolm McDowell came back and played
Yes,
the
he did. He
character.
did Oh Lucky Man, and he did Britannia Hospital.
Yeah.
So, and they were all about the British class system.
Yeah.
But they're not direct, but yeah, it's a trilogy, if you like.
Yeah, a little Antoine Doinel style almost,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
right.
Well, I think
Jesus,
we should...
guys, all right.
Sorry, we're showing off you today, brother.
I
We're
was
showing
making
off
dad
the show.
jokes if, what, and why was my sequels. What and why.
Okay.
Well, you know, you should name the movies. There's always room to make more, I think, in that world.
Yeah.
Well, I think let's dive into some of your choices. We're here
Right.
inside the video store. We have every single film on the shelves. I'm going to send you out, wander the aisles, search for your favorite films, come back, we'll talk about them. Not literally, you don't have to even stand up in this moment, but we're painting a picture for the listener of this show right now.
New release.
So you've got a beautiful stack of movies in front of you boys right now. We're going to talk about your new release pick, and coincidentally, it's a film that you both star in. It's a film called How to Make Gravy.
Drama.
I really loved this film, and I think what immediately struck me about this film is that it captures this rather poignant feeling that I associate with Christmas, which is that melancholy feeling. Could you guys talk to me about like how you think that will resonate with Australian stories and Australian audiences?
I think it will resonate massively. I hope it will. It certainly did with us. And because the source material is Paul Kelly's song, How to Make Gravy, which has resonated, we know has resonated and increases to resonate over the years, sort of grown, it's got a cult following, we have a thing called Gravy Day. So
December
the fact that
21st,
this film's
we love that
based on
Gravy
that
Day.
means it's, you feel like it already has reverberated over the years, and hopefully this film will continue in a different way to reverberate with people. So it is about family, it is about celebrating family at Christmas, and it's also about being away from your family and missing them and stuffing up as a man and missing your kids. And so I think it's something we all like. We all know what that is. We all know the country we live in and what happens at Christmas in this particular country and how we get together or don't with our families. And so everyone has a reaction to it and a connection to it, I think.
Yeah.
Funny that you said melancholic. Did you feel that at White Christmas?
Sometimes, it's not sometimes I feel happy as well
Yeah,
at
yeah,
Christmas.
sure.
I guess it depends on the present I get.
Right. It's dependent on how good the prezi is.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a tanty when you don't get the right present?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
I want my Criterion Blu-rays. If I don't get it, I'm not happy.
But it's true though. I think some people feel more isolated when they're around people, and particularly around those who have triggered them over the years.
Yeah.
And it can be even more. It can be quite a confronting feeling of feeling. You so desperately want to be connected to a community, particularly yours, the one that raised you or you knew growing up, and then to feel isolated with that can create this weird dichotomy of sadness and wanting to be loved, which is melancholy. And I think that this film does that, but it also, in response to bringing that up, it does answer that, and everybody starts to show up for the people that need to be shown up for. And it just turns out that every character needs to be shown up for at some point during the film, and they all do that for themselves by doing it for other people as well. And so the community that you wanted in the beginning to be there for you ends up being the ones that save you. And I think that feels like Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, and again, Paul's music does that so brilliantly. That was a very interesting take. Yeah.
I think you put it so beautifully, because I think that's what the film captures so nicely in the sense of it being adapted from the song, because the song is like a sad subject matter, but it's got all this like love and almost like encouragement through it that I think is what adapts so beautifully when it became a film.
What makes it a great Christmas film and Christmas song? It's not sort of tinsely snowy. It's not sentimental. It is, but it is about love, and but it's about warts and all love. It's about loving the real people that you are in the family with, and that means there are problems associated with that, and there are always little fights going on, and you know, people are sort of competing. And, but it's about real love, not about fake Christmas love. It's not about, you know. So I think that's what's that's what's special about it to me.
It's not in that very American. This is the idea of how we want Christmas to be and hope to be.
It's not snow globe, you know?
No, exactly. This is, as you say, warts and all. This is people make mistakes, and we can love each other while still driving each other up the wall.
Yeah,
but we can still turn up and be there for each other.
Yeah,
having space for all of it.
I think the sequence that really, I think it almost like feels like the cooked down essence of the film in its totality is this really beautiful sequence, quite layered, about young Angus kind of being ensnared once again in that cycle of like anger and violence. And then it's juxtaposed with like the beauty and escapism in the jail that this choir is building this song together. And then once again juxtaposed with you two literally building the gravy together. Can you kind of talk to me about like that, almost like captures like the nourishing quality of food and the way that food kind of brings us together as well? Could you kind of talk to me about that sequence and especially like, you know, the actual gravy training that you guys went through?
Well, that sequence, of course, is it's like that's a musical sequence too. So Zachariah Fielding is it not Zachariah singing "It's All a Dream" when we're going through that sequence? So it's a beautiful piece, original composition from Megan Washington, sung in the most incredible way by the choir and Zachariah Fielding, who's one of the inmates and is in the choir. So that transports you through that, you know. We hear that as we're watching this sort of montage of young Angus dealing with the things he's been told what to do to fight bullies. Well, you punch them in the face, and meanwhile his father's in jail, and they're slowly building this this group. So I agree, it's a really it's a fabulous sequence, and to me, it's the heart of the film. Actually. Absolutely. And visually really beautiful sequence.
Very visually, very beautiful. There is something in that is, I think you hinted at, and I don't know if you meant it or not, but
I mean everything I say.
I'm
one of the most sincere blokes around.
And you've got multi-layers on everything.
Multi-layered,
I love
multifaceted.
it. So you did mean it. Okay, great. So I'll pick up on it. So Joe's lost someone dear to him at an early age. We find that in the film. And he starts to live his life almost repeating the same thing but without taking his life. So he takes himself from... So trauma repeats trauma on generation on trauma. But the job that I think most people should have as a top priority is not carrying on your trauma to the next. That's what you can... That can be the gift that you give on. So he's going headfirst into repeating the trauma by taking himself away from his child. Much like he says to... So I spent my whole life waiting for my dad, and now I've had the chance and I'm not there, and I can't believe I fucked it up. But he's literally pulling himself into lived suicide almost, in that he won't be there for his entire family. But that cycle's broken, and it's broken through the healing nature of creating food for someone, which is nourishing and nourishes the entire prison population and lifts them through the song that's performed during the Christmas meal. Like the joy that the inmates get around the food and the music. It's so cathartic for them all, and there is a release. Yeah, and they get a chance to be the better versions of themselves in that moment, and they get held in that moment by the community. Which again, like you can make a mistake, but you should be accountable for the mistake you made, but in a way that you're held, which is brings in what Hugo's character and Hugo does so beautifully through the character is that he holds the people that he sees that can be held, that will allow themselves to be held, to help them heal themselves while still holding them accountable. And this whole time the food and the music is playing there in the background as to supplement the nourishment in the healing. It's gravy, baby. Yeah. It's gravy, baby.
Yeah. That's it, the power of gravy.
Yeah.
I think you were kind of getting at something that I find probably one of my areas of fascination, especially when it comes to Australian film, is like this, almost like this cultural obsession Australia has with either damaged men or Australian psychopaths almost. And both of you
Why do you keep looking at me?
Well, I think of you as one of the great explorers of this realm in Australian cinema. Yeah, exactly. I would say both of you have made a lot of work that kind of explores that. And when I was watching, especially in this sequence, and I think it's a sequence that is previous to this in the film, this feels like a film that is almost like a healing of that feeling, especially thinking about that scene in the group therapy with the two of you, led by you, Hugo. Was that something that you guys were conscious of, or something that you were searching for in wanting to sign up to a film like this? Or something
I think it feels like it sits at the heart of it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How can a man heal himself? How can a man be a better man for his family? You know, how can we incorporate weakness into a masculine construct? How can we incorporate forgiveness and saying sorry into that? So very, very much a part of the film and the way in which you're thinking about it.
Yeah. And Dan?
I'm so sorry, I vagued out.
Well, you know, you went back to probably the darker places in your filmography.
Why are we so fascinated by it, you think?
Yeah, why are we fascinated by it?
So
And
sorry.
I guess also the healing.
I didn't
nature of
really
something
answer
in
the question.
this.
That's why you vagued out, because I probably vagued out as well.
No, I was
going on?
I was like
We're in a
wondering
strange
what
video
are we going-
store.
Exactly, we're in between places
There's
and
so
times right
many-
now.
I'm in the wrong part of the video store.
Yeah, I think it's because there is the resulting behaviours that come from not understanding. There's a lot of questions right now about the damaging role men play in society, destructive role that men play in society, rightfully so. And I think we're fascinated by it because we want to understand it and we want to heal it. We want to break the cycle. We want, and that has to be led by the people perpetrating that. So we're examining it in art, right? Because we want to put up a mirror. I mean, it's a lofty goal.
And also, it's a convict colony, right? I mean, so all of those cliches hold true. So that toxic male cycle has just been going on and on and on and on all over the world, but really in a very particular way in this country. And so, of course, we make so many cops and robbers TV shows, and we are looking at who we are as you know, and we're looking at the particular nature of the Australian male. And I kind of actually got to the point where I go, I'm sick of it. I'm actually sick of playing those guys in a way, because I feel like I want to be a better man, and I want to express a different sort of.
You want to see how it's possible.
I actually want to shift it personally. And so it's it's to have an opportunity to do that, but in a real way. And that mirrors the desire of the society to actually move forward. Is great, and I think that's.
And it's celebrated.
And it really
and
makes
it's wrapped
this a
up
very
in a
powerful
Christmas film.
Yeah.
And there's beautiful music attached to it. Like, it does play on all the senses as well. So you're dealing with something, as Hugo says, it's deep and dark and heavy, and you desperately want to see this in society. You want to see this progression happen for men who are in trouble, who don't have the means to express themselves in a way that isn't through violence. And we celebrate that in the film, but it's not done without accountability. Like, no one gets off with a free. No one gets off with a light tap.
What did Noel say? Can't you see beyond the bullshit construct of these? There's a whole world outside these walls, but it feels like there is a world of masculinity outside the construct of the Australian male, and that's what he's saying. Like, there's another type. There's another way of existing as a man. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be the boss. You don't have to be the provider. You can be weak and say, I'm sorry, it's okay.
That can be strength.
You know, that's right. It actually gives you much more humanity and dimension. And that's what we want to be as men. Otherwise, we can't have families. You can't really be in a family if you're not open to your own failings.
That's so beautiful. I'm so glad I asked you guys that question. That's so beautifully put from both of you. I think the solution, we've got to send gravies out there to all the blokes.
That's right.
Have a little cup of gravy, everybody, and then that's how we all connect.
It can be the
feel
beginning.
That warmth, that nourishment.
And a bit of circle work.
Oh, absolutely. That's it. We've got to get a nationwide circle, pass that cup of gravy.
It was good doing
around.
that circle work. We were actually doing that on the day. It was actually very powerful.
It feels very meditative as well. Well, I think, I'm so glad that I got to talk to you guys about this movie. Beautiful film.
Should we put it back on the shelf?
Oh, you can take it with you.
I'm going to take a copy too, and I'm going to make sure all my friends watch it.
Yes, of course. Everybody should watch it with their families together.
Yes.
Weekly.
I reckon let's get into some of your weekly choices.
Okay.
Hugo, shall we begin with yours first?
Why not?
You've
Why
got
not?
one of, I think, the most beautiful, essential modern art house films from Turkey. It is Once Upon a Time in Anatolia.
Yes.
Art house.
I'm not Turkish speaker, but I think he's called Nuri Bilge Ceylan. I think that's how.
I think Nuri Bilge Ceylan, but I'm not sure.
Well, it's
I'm Greek,
I
so
know
I
it's
don't
pronounced
speak Turkish.
Ceylan. It
Yeah.
looks like Ceylon.
Yeah.
It's Nuri Bilge Ceylan, but
Yeah.
it's Nuri Bilge Ceylan, I think. But anyway, he is a great filmmaker. He's absolutely, I think he's the great filmmaker in the world. There's a lot, but for me, he's like the great filmmaker. His films are very long.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, oh, bloody hell. So it's a long film, but it's powerful, and
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times. And every time I see it, I feel like I haven't seen that, or I haven't picked up on that. I go, what is it? It's a police procedural, but it's not.
Yeah,
so you
it's
feel
very
like,
unconventional.
you know, it's a whole group of men in 2 cars or 3 cars traveling through the countryside of Anatolia. And there's a couple of prisoners, and there's a couple of guys in handcuffs. So there's a policeman, the district prosecutor, a doctor, and a whole lot of blokes. There's no women in these cars. And they're driving the cops are driving these prisoners through the landscape, trying to find out where's the body. So there's obviously been a murder. So you feel like, okay, I'm in this place. But then as the film goes on, you realize, well, they keep stopping to try and, is this where you left the body? Oh, I don't know. He can't remember because he was drunk. And then you realize all the stories you're hearing that these guys are telling each other about, a lot of them are about women, their wives, past girlfriends, or women, and women are on the phone. And so you realize, oh, I'm in a very male world, but they're telling stories about women, or they're being, you know, and what is this film about? It's not about it's not a whodunit or a why done it. It's actually about much broader things, and it's about guilt, and it's about being a man and not being able to deal with women in the right way. So it has a lot of connections to How to Make Gravy, actually.
Yeah.
It's an intensely male world, but the key female characters in it are really illuminating. And it's dreamlike, and it's hard to pin down, and you don't really know what it's actually about.
And it keeps changing, like, the way that it communicates with you, this film. Like, I think what it does so well, because it has that slow process, it's almost like training you in time and patience, so the film can kind of start communicating to you indirectly.
Exactly.
Is I think what it does so well, and it's almost transcendental in the way that, like, Terrence Malick or Theo Angelopoulos films are, when it kind of speaks to you in that way. And what I've noticed as well, like, this time revisiting it, and I think maybe it's also the time that I saw it would have been like the first, what was that, Sydney Film Festival, maybe like
Sydney Film Festival,
quite a while ago now. I would have been studying in university, and I was studying Chekhov at the time.
Yep.
And I think there's something about this that feels very Chekhovian, in that it is a tragedy, or it's like sad. But the way that people communicate to each other, the way they share stories with each other, it has, like, not comedy, but the way that humor kind of still ekes out, because that's the way people want to talk to each other. There's something about that just really struck me as well.
He references Chekhov, Dostoevsky, and Shakespeare like no one else. So he actually takes Chekhov's short stories, and he'll flesh them out. I don't know that this is one short story, but it's a number. He feels like nothing much happens in Chekhov. People are always, it's just about, nothing really happening. It's about how people falling in love with the wrong person, and then they get upset about that person rejects them. But nothing goes, you know, nothing much happens. Nothing really much happens in this, but a lot is revealed and a lot is expressed, and you go on an internal journey. That's right.
And the aesthetic beauty of this film as well, like, it feels so modern and contemporary, but in this very ancient setting of the natural world in Anatolia.
Yeah.
And the way that he uses, like, headlamps of cars to paint, it's almost like the way that frickin' Kubrick uses candles in
it's all natural light, isn't it? So and the lamp light, and when they're all falling asleep, and the woman's, the headlights of the cars are. And those moments where there's a shot where I think it's an orange drops from a tree and then rolls down a bank, and the camera sort of follows that, and then goes into this river, and then it sort of keeps on moving. Is it an orange?
I think it's an apple.
Apple.
It's an apple.
Anyway, some piece of fruit, but it's like absolute beauty, and he's not into human exceptionalism as a director. So he always expresses the natural world, nature, the wind, like Tarkovsky does. Like a wheat field will become animated by the wind, and the natural world around us is always bigger than we are. So we are put in perspective by this filmmaker, which is really good, and it's healthy for us. We're not the center of everything. The world is a bigger place than we can understand. You know, so that's a Shakespearean thing. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than I dreamt of in your philosophy, and that's what he thinks as a director. He shows you our lack of understanding, but we're trying to tell each other stories to understand who we are. And he's my absolutely all-time favorite filmmaker. Yeah.
Have you seen this one, Dan?
I've not.
Have we sold you on it?
You have?
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
okay.
big time.
Yeah.
No. Especially that last bit about we are not the center of the universe. There's so much we don't understand, and we kind of desperately try and understand it through story, so we have some sense of control over it.
And so much filmmaking is about us being at the center of everything and all knowing. And I was like, actually, I find that very tedious.
Yeah. Well, you have to carve out a 3-hour window of complete darkness to engulf yourself in this one.
Is it 3 hours?
I think just
it's
under.
more. Might maybe more than 3 hours.
It feels more than 3
Maybe,
hours, but it
is
might
it
be
really?
just under.
No, hang on. No. There's a 90-minute behind-the-scenes documentary with it, but no.
That's
it's like
three
I think it's
hours.
3 hours.
Is it rude to do a 2 viewing session of one film?
Wow, I don't know if it's rude, but is it acceptable?
Pause it? Is it acceptable?
I think
there is.
Is it disrespectful?
I don't think it's disrespectful.
You kind of did, though.
Unless it's for you can only disrespect yourself. You can't disrespect the film.
There's a little bit of shade.
A tiny bit. Let it be known there was a tiny bit of shade, but I couldn't help but spill.
How dare you?
I'm still encouraging you to watch the film.
Yes, no, I mean, I'm sold.
Well, Daniel, I think it's time we talk about your pick as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
This is an
What
absolute belt
did you
you've got
pluck down
here.
from the
I
shelves?
plucked down one of my all-time favourites, something that I go back to a lot, and it always speaks to me and makes me feel at home with myself, and it gives me someone to laugh and cry along with. It's a film called Malcolm. It's an Australian from Nadia Tass.
Comedy.
It was made in the late 80s in Melbourne, and it's part of the reason I moved to Melbourne.
Really?
Yeah, the sirens in Melbourne are not alike anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
And wherever I hear a siren in Melbourne, I go straight back to this film, which is an odd response to a siren, but it makes me feel very happy. But the beauty in this is that there's 3 characters that don't have any business knowing each other that come together under one roof, under certain circumstances that aren't always positive, and yet they form a friendship, and it's funny, and it's human, and they all make mistakes, and they end up robbing a bank.
Yeah.
And it's ingenious, and it's constantly surprising you. It's
Hargraves, right?
Beautiful John Hargraves.
Colin Frills.
Colin Frills. And Lindy Davis.
Yeah, great actors.
Chris Haywood has a nice cameo. Oh, no, my brain is doing it to me. The brilliant actor who makes toast art.
Heather Mitchell.
Beautiful Heather Mitchell has a beautiful cameo in it.
Yeah.
It just reeks of 80s Australia.
Yeah.
For all its good parts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ingenuity of Colin Frills' character, who is played with so much respect. It could be played by an actor.
Empathy.
So much empathy.
Yeah.
It could be played by an actor who judges that character and plays a two-dimensional, horrible impersonation of a person who may think and feel that way. But it's done with so much heart and love and humour.
Yeah.
And humanity. And it's just fucking funny. Like the creation of gadgets and things that Colin Frills' character makes, Malcolm.
Yeah.
The way that he gets to fall in love with the girl that's always been in love with him down the street. It harks back to an era where you had to walk to the milk bar to get milk, and that you didn't go to a big, corporate faceless supermarket. It was all within your community. There was a milk bar on every corner. These are all very hardworking people who don't have a lot, but in the end, they rip off the people that have too much, and only get to do it again. We find the film ends with them being in another city because trams play a huge part in their robbery, and Malcolm Collins' character, Malcolm, was as a tram conductor, genius, builder, inventor, and John Hargrave's character is an ex-con who is trying to stay out of trouble but still like lurking into criminal activity, but needs a place to stay. Malcolm's mother's just passed. He needs some money because he's just been fired from being a tram driver or conductor. Lindy's character is John Hargrave's partner or lover, and they form this very wholesome, unlikely trio of bandits that rob a big, bad, faceless corporation bank, and then they go and do it again in Portugal. I mean, it's and then the revelry they have and the love that they have for each other and out of it. That I don't know. It just celebrates.
Yeah. It's such a warm film in that way as well. And I think it's like, I remember the first time I saw this film, all I'd heard about it and all I'd seen about it is that image of the car split in half.
Yeah,
and the first time I saw it, it's pure magic when that happens.
It's so well captured and covered too. Like, it would have been made on a budget. And we know how difficult that is to make believable, and you believe it, and it's in camera. Do you know what I mean? There's no real special effects. No, John's freaking out, the actor, as the character, you know, and the humour and that, you know, when he goes, Malcolm goes, how do you stick up a bank? And then John's character goes to stick up a bank, it shows him how he does it, and some dude's just going to whack him on the head because he thinks he's actually doing it, and this to how much, the absolute joy that Chris Hayward's character has in the retelling of that story, and John's just sitting there going, fucking right. Yeah, it's just, there's something quintessentially Australian,
absolutely,
or 80s Australia about that. Yeah, I recommend it.
It's a great film. I want to go and see that again tonight.
Yeah. It's a great Friday night film. Yeah.
You know. And that new restoration on it is beautiful.
Staff pick.
Well, we've come to a time of the show where I have to give you, as my duty as the video store clerk, a staff pick recommendation. And it's kind of based on your taste, based on this Christmas feeling as well.
Right.
But I want to give you something kind of like a darker Christmas film, if you will. And this is one of my favorites. And Hugo, it sounds like you're a bit of a Criterion dweller as well. Yeah. So this may have been on your radar. This is actually a gift for you guys. This is actually a gift for me. This is the noir classic Blast of Silence. Have you seen this one?
Oh, no. No.
Crime.
This is from 1961, directed by Alan Barron, and he's also the star of the film. And this is a guy that looks more like Robert De Niro than Robert De Niro ever has. And this is a film about a hired killer from Cleveland who has a job to do to take out a second-string mob boss in New York City during the Christmas season.
Fuck
yes. And he also has this special girl from his past, a gun dealer with pet rats. They all kind of get in the way and complicate things when he's got this singular mission.
A gun dealer with pet rats.
Yeah, the pet rats are a big part of this film. Brilliant. And what kind of astounds me most about this film is its low-budget, Christmas-tinged gangster noir. It's able to build like this feeling of existentialism through pulp very elegantly, and that is through this narration that I'd say feels like a predecessor to the kind of twisted musings of Paul Schrader and Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. And that narration is written by the uncredited all-time great screenwriter Waldo Salt, who would go on to do Midnight Cowboy, Coming Home. But I think it's just beautiful, very powerfully shot, gritty New York film that kind of has almost like video photo essay qualities to the way it's shot. That's I think it's a real winner for both of you.
Can I just say, I adore your love. I love your love of film.
Thank you so much. I've heard it's contagious, so be careful.
No, this is so lovely.
I've never even heard of this film, and that is absolutely brilliant.
I was so worried that you would be like, I've seen this a dozen times. You're a little scrub.
Not only have I not seen it, I've never heard of it.
Wow. Well, the DVD you guys can share it this Christmas. Get together December 21st, chuck it on.
Your Friday just got even better.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully there's a DVD player ready for you to chuck it on. But guys, thank you so much for coming to the video store. You're welcome back anytime.
Gift.
Yeah.
Lovely to be in your video store.
My pleasure. You've got to return it within 7 days.
Yeah, gotcha.
Otherwise, I will be coming after you.
Yeah.
The hired gun will be here.
It's a $2.95.
Oh, absolutely. Every day.
Yeah, with interest.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank
Really
you, man.
appreciate
That
it.
was lovely.
Thank you,
How
guys.
much fun.
Thank you.
The last video store.